back to Customers Who Click episode 49. I hope you've all been enjoying the episodes recently. If you've missed a few or if you're new to the show, I definitely recommend scanning through them. And you can always check out the show notes with key points summarized at customerswhoclick.com. Today's topic is really fascinating, and I don't think many businesses at all are doing it, and that is monitoring customer sentiment. Obviously, you get some idea of what people are thinking via NPS scores, customer service, social media, if you keep an eye on it, but nothing really beats a structured process around measuring it over time across different channels and without actually asking people for it. And you can even monitor what customers are saying about your competitors as well. But I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll get today's guest, Tom Griffiths, on. Tom's the Chief Revenue Officer at Talkative.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and why you're doing what you're doing at the moment?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for having me as well, Will. Pleasure to be here. So my background, the past sort of 7, coming up to 8 years now, I've spent within ad sales, media sales, and then recently moving into startups and tech over the past 4 years. And really sort of my driver throughout has sort of really been about how to improve customer retention rate, how to make engaging adverts, and really sort of how to use data in a way that can really sort of help a brand expand into new markets, get the most out of their advertisement by using data and really resonate with their customer. Sort of for me, kind of those that are sort of the early adopters of technology and certainly now AI are those that are going to really excel in the future and using it to enhance customer retention, customer experience and customer acquisition.
I talk about it a lot, using data to do exactly that, improve the customer experience, build lifetime value as well. So what exactly are you working on at the moment?
Absolutely. So I'm currently I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Talkative. We are a digital consumer intelligence platform. We use AI and a type of AI called NLP, or natural language processing. And this allows us to understand emotions and sentiments in the written word, so that our customers and clients are able to understand how their customers feel towards them, their products, and also how their potential customers feel towards the industry and their competitors, enabling them to get a better understanding of how to interact with their customers, how to develop products for the needs of their customers, and also how to really retain those customers, which in a D2C market is sort of the real goal of what everybody's looking to do is that customer retention.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if a brand is, let's say a brand's doing quite well, maybe doing millions a month, whatever, but not doing any of this, why should they care? Like, I get it for smaller businesses, it might be really good for that initial feedback, and it's another piece of feedback that helps you develop and learn in the early days. But if you're already established and you've got loads of customers coming back and forth, why should they care? What can they do with the information?
Absolutely. So the information that we provide, the emotional analysis, the sentiment analysis, allows those larger customers, those larger clients, to really understand what their consumer thinks about them, what to look at in terms of product development by the way that people are talking about them through their reviews, through social media, through forums, really sort of digging deeper into connecting with the emotions of their customer. So it allows them to find out what maybe their competitors' customers' pain points are, and then using those pain points or leveraging those pain points to acquire their competitors' customers to help them grow even further. And also understanding the language that their customer uses. So it allows them then to word campaigns in a certain way that can make them more engaging and create a better return on investment for their advertisements.
Oh yeah, I quite like that last bit actually. I guess it might come across a little bit stalkerish, but kind of analysing what people are saying online and how they say it about your brand and when discussing your products, so that you can use similar tones and similar vocabulary, I suppose, to actually advertise as well.
Yes, certainly. And also what it allows a client to do, or a business to do, sorry, is to then use alternative keywords, if you like. Everybody is always trying to find the optimum keywords that create a high click-through rate and also don't cost too much or are not likely to be outbidded. And by understanding the language that your customers use, it left in those reviews, left in social media posts and tweets, etc., it allows the company to use their language to find, on average, sort of a 30% saving on their ad spend by using the language that their customer uses, as it's the language that they're more likely to search with on Google.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's huge. 30% is, if you could take 30% off your ad spend and get the same results, I think any brand would happily take that up. Yeah, and I guess it works. I've spoken to brands about kind of user-generated content. So looking at what bloggers and people are writing about you, and how they're writing it, and kind of doing this social media monitoring, but obviously more in a manual way. So looking at people's posts and just seeing how they actually do it. But I suppose if you can have a tool actually do it for you, and I suppose provide analysis on that as well. Yeah, so that's obviously much better than otherwise you're just taking such a small sample, and probably quite a biased sample. So yeah, that's
kind of the root of our tool, really, is that it allows to remove that bias, because you're not sending out a survey, or you're not polling people where, even if you don't think that those questions are written in a biased way, they are, because you're obviously in your mind looking for an end answer that you want to hear or want to read. So when you're extracting those reviews and analyzing those reviews using an AI tool like ours at Talkative, it removes that bias. These people are writing reviews unprompted. These people are tweeting about you unprompted, and it sounds silly, but it's actually quite sort of time consuming, or takes a lot of thought to write a tweet. Like, I'm sure you've been there before, and you've been starting to write that tweet and then just sort of deleted it, just like, oh no, it's not worth it. So for somebody to go out of their way to tweet about your company, to talk about your company completely unprompted, that's sort of the real raw intelligence that you can base your marketing strategy on, that you can base your product development on, and how you can base really getting those customers to sort of retain and stay with you.
Yeah. So what kind of holds people off doing this at the moment? What are maybe some of the misconceptions around trying to measure this sentiment that either puts people off or just makes them think it's maybe not worth the time?
Absolutely. So the problem is that there have been sort of emotional intelligence or social or sentiment intelligence tools previously. And what a lot of those tools do is count. So they would count the amount of times a specific word comes up, a subject matter. And then if we take the word order, for example, when we first launched this product into the e-commerce market, we looked at one of the largest fast fashion brands in the UK. And one word that we kept seeing coming up time and time again was the word order. Now, if you're an e-commerce company or a D2C brand and you see the word order coming up a lot, that tends to mean quite a good thing. People are buying your product, they're ordering from you. So that obviously means that your marketing is working and you're getting people through to your site and they're buying from you. But once we look deeper and look at the emotional context, looking at the context as a whole, what we were finding out was actually 80% of that was negative chatter, was negative comments around the term order. It was people whose orders were turning up late, or people whose orders weren't being tracked properly on their website. So what it's allowed, what we've got to now at the stage is that we're able to showcase sort of where the context of those words lie. Instead of just counting a word, it's really understanding the whole context in which that word lies. So previously, the barriers have really been not being able to not being able to understand those contexts, which we're able to do now.
Yeah, I remember actually using, I can't remember what the tool was called, but years ago, like for 10 years ago, a social media monitoring tool that kind of, it gave you the number of followers. So you could track yourself and your competitors and just kind of see how you're trending over time. But I think you could set up some kind of mentions and things. But yeah, thinking about it, it probably was just counting, which means that if our keyword wasn't correct or wasn't targeted enough, it just wasn't very useful. But we probably didn't understand that at the time.
Yes, absolutely. And where we've got to now in terms of emotional intelligence or social listening tools is very much that we're not searching for a topic. We're just looking through all the customers' chatter or their clients' chatter, and then from there we're able to find out what the key topics are that their consumers are looking for. So rather than purposely going out there looking for the word order, we simply search through all the companies' tweets, all their reviews, and then from there being able to process and finding out the key topics that their customers were talking about. So it's now going past counting and really understanding the emotions attached to those words.
I remember a startup a few years ago. They were trying to do something around the stock market, like investment, almost advice. Oh, they might have been trading themselves actually. It was like stock market trading, but they were trying to use online sentiment to try and determine how a stock would improve or decline. And I think part of what they found was one tweet can make a massive difference. So now obviously someone like Trump, we've even had it the last few years. If he sends like a negative tweet about a company, that can really affect their share price. And in the end, I think they just struggled to make it work. They couldn't find any kind of patterns and reliability there, which really showed that trending. But I wonder if it's because they just they didn't really have the power behind it. This was 10 years ago. They probably just didn't have the tech to do that, right?
Yes, most likely. Like for ourselves, we spent 4 years in R&D to be able to get to the point where we are now. So we're able to understand sarcasm within the written word. So a great example I can give you is killer app versus killer cat. They both have the word killer in it, but two very different contexts. A killer app, obviously doing great, while a killer cat, probably best to stay out of its way. So it's being able to understand those emotional contexts within those written words. And that's the stage where we're at now, where we can understand what customers are saying and using that emotive language to be able to write the ads, to be able to find out the problems that companies have and be able to aid them with product development too. Really finding that hole in the market that's going to be the next big thing, or going to be able to attract customers from their competitors and keep them.
So what are some of the kind of basic things a brand could be doing at the moment just to monitor some of this in a more, I guess, like accurate way, so you're not just counting?
Yes, absolutely. They could use a tool like ours at Talkative, where we're able to analyze the chatter that there is surrounding their company, but also their competitors too, and their industry as a whole. So really for us, it's about reading below the lines. And that's what all companies can do. Like, it's great that your tweet or your Instagram post has 500, 1,000 likes, for example. But where the real intelligence is below that line, where people have gone out of their way to interact with you through a comment. So read those comments that people are writing to you, read those tweets, read those reviews, and really understand the language that's used with them. And it can highlight some great parts of your product. It can highlight some great parts of your service. And, those are great strap lines to use for your advertising. Another way that it can be used, and another way that a real simple and basic thing that companies can go and do, is if they're going to look to work with an influencer, go and read the comments on their posts, see what kind of community they've built up, see how their followers interact with them, and see sort of the responses that they're getting, because people still buy from people. People buy from people who can influence and persuade. And if you're an influencer who goes out of their way to answer those comments, to build up that community, then that's the influencer that you should be working with. That's somebody who can really help promote your brand, because they've got that community with them, because they've got the positive sentiments from their followers engaging with them in their comments on their posts.
Yeah, I think the point about influence is really interesting, and it kind of makes me think about your point about natural language processing. Yeah, obviously the point for the tool there is that it's able to understand natural language, and understand the context behind it. But actually, what I think I noticed quite a bit is marketers don't tend to be very good at actually writing adverts in natural language. When you see it a lot when text is provided to influencers and they're basically told to like copy paste that, you can tell right away. Almost if you don't even know that influencer, you just see the post, you can tell that's not been written by them. That's been written by a marketer as a promotion. So yeah, it's really interesting that, you should look at influencers, look at how they write their posts, how they talk about brands and products, and how their audiences respond to that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of, I think that's becoming more and more apparent now, is that marketers do tend to write in purely buzzwords, and purely words that they believe are engaging because there's been some research done 5 years ago about it. While rather than understanding the language that their customers are using now to describe their product, and using that, leveraging all that data that's under those likes, that's under those shares, to help inform the content that they write, to help create those blog posts that can be more resonant, to write those captions that are going to resonate more with their customer. There's a huge amount of data below that line, and it's real people talking, not people in a focus group. That's what people are thinking there and then when they comment. So yeah, absolutely, leverage the language that your customers are using below the line of that post.
Yeah, but it's not just the jargon either. It's just the style of writing. It just, I don't know. It's just always terrible. It's always stuff like, when you click a share button and the pre-populated text is, in my opinion, it's like I would never ever post the pre-suggested text, because it's just not how I'd write. And it's always, I don't think it's how anyone would write, really. It's always stuff like, join me on this brand and get reward, or I don't know. It's just always terrible. And I actually, one brand I worked with a couple of years ago, we rewrote that text to try and be a bit more like casual.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw something like a 20% improvement in referrals coming through it. And
wow.
I don't know if people edited the text afterwards, but it was just a more casual. I can't actually remember what we wrote now.
Yes,
it's just something like, it'd be like, "Hey Tom, I've been playing games on this website. I thought you might like it as well. Check it out here. Link. You'll also get a welcome bonus when you join." It was just something like that. It was kind of written just a bit more casually, and I guess how I would be more likely to write it, but in a way that obviously anyone can use, and is not trying to tailor it to everyone to write. But it's just little things like that. And I suppose if you can use a tool like Talkative to, I'm guessing it doesn't write, does it? It doesn't write copy, does it? It's just
no, it doesn't. But it gives you suggestions, and it shows you the language. It shows suggestions, and there's sort of the AI creates contexts too, sentence examples that would work. But obviously then it's down to you to make sure that it's kind of on your brand's message too.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose on the topic of how do people use it, I guess internal processes, what's important? Because I can see this being another thing that maybe marketing teams use and improve their advertising and stuff, but then it just sits with marketing and that's it. When there's probably a lot more that can be done with it. Things like customer service, you could rewrite all your pre-populated templates for customer service in a tone which is just more appealing to your audience. And also, like you said, I think you'll get feedback about products and things. So I guess it's not so much about getting an idea of the general sentiment out there, but it's actually some of the feedback that's out there that you pick up by discovering that negative sentiment.
Yes.
What are some like easy processes that, or what should brands be doing to actually make sure they're fully taking advantage of that information?
Certainly. So if we start with the customer service side, what we're able to do is we're able to analyze any form of text or voice. So if it came in the form of, you may not have a customer helpline like many D2C brands don't, we're able to analyze the emails that come through. And with that, we're able to show you the emotive language used by your customers and also highlight the problems that they're coming to you with through that email. The same with Twitter. If you've got a customer help Twitter, it would work in the same way. So then we can find the best language to use to reply to those customers that you have, and understanding the full context of that sentence too. In terms of the product side, you can use a tool like Talkatives as essentially the world's biggest polling company, if you like, but without asking questions. We simply listen. So instead of going out and asking people, what do you think of this? What would you like to see? How can we improve on this? They're telling you. People are telling you all the time. Your customers are telling you. Your competitors' customers are telling them. If you can harness this information, it can really help drive where you move your company to. If you're looking to pivot into a new sector, analyze what the best companies are doing there. Analyze the chatter through their reviews, through the way people are contacting them through social media. Analyze those and get a feel for what their customers need. That's really sort of what a tool such as Talkative can bring. It can really sort of enhance sort of a product development, the way you want to go, and really understand the marketplace as a whole. So yeah, use a tool like us as the world's largest polling company that just listens without those biased questions there.
Yeah, use the data to improve your company. Do the research if you're looking at moving into a new space with a new product or pivoting or whatever. But I think you also mentioned earlier, kind of basically spying on your competitors, can't you? So you can actually find out what people do and don't like about your competitors, and I guess use that information to then run ads or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, and it shows the gaps in their flaws and in their products, which you can then leverage. Which you can then let's say it's a clothing brand, and they're quite late. They've had like a series of late deliveries, for example. Your next marketing campaign is, our deliveries always arrive on time. Something as simple as that, by understanding that your competitor has had a problem with their courier service. So just leveraging something as simple as that is something that will resonate with those people who've had those problems. And then you're acquiring their customers. Once you acquire their customers, then you're using the same tool to find out what your internal issues are, so that then you can ensure that you can retain customers. It's such a competitive space at the moment, and only going to be more competitive. So being able to work out sort of what the problems are with your competitors and with internally too, means that you can ensure that you can retain those customers.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, just while you're talking there, I was thinking, you mentioned delivery. If your competitor has some problems with a courier. So I thought, well, could you set up monitoring for a bunch of different couriers, let's say in the UK, so that if you start to have problems with yours, you've got an idea of who's actually performing well, without having to speak to a salesperson who's obviously going to say, yeah, we hit our targets and everything. However, is there an issue that it's only picking up the sentiments that is there? So we know that people who are unhappy are much more likely to share that unhappiness than people who are happy. So potentially, if the only reason people tweet about a courier is to complain about it, could that almost negatively impact that research? Because the tool says all the feedback there is negative, so almost avoid this courier, despite the fact that it's actually only been, like, I don't know, I'm sure you've got some algorithms in place, but let's say 100 tweets in a month, but they're all negative. But actually, there's 50,000 happy people out there every month who are getting their orders in time.
Yes. So then what you're doing then is weighing up sort of the negative sentiment that we're experiencing and the number of, let's say, tweets, for example, you say 100, but there's 50,000 deliveries. But if only 100 people are complaining, even if it's 10 times that number of people whose deliveries aren't actually turning up on time, that's 4/5 that are still turning up on time. So it's sort of weighing it up, but it gives you an indicator that, hey, maybe we should be looking at our courier service. Maybe we should be incorporating harsher KPIs on our courier service. It allows you to look at it, and maybe it does pick up a problem that you didn't realize that you had. So it allows you to sort of have those building blocks there to fix the problem before it becomes more widespread. If you step in earlier, when there's only 100 tweets with a negative sentiment, and if you let it run for a month, then all of a sudden you've got 200, 500 negative tweets. The fact that you were able to step in earlier and talk to the courier service, then that's prevented it from becoming a bigger problem.
This is one of those cases where there's still a lot more. There's a lot more on the marketer to actually kind of make those decisions, right? And understand that the data is not really there. It could be quite easy to just misinterpret the data by seeing that negative data and saying, oh, okay, it's all negative.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. I'm not saying that sort of NLP is the answer to sort of all marketers' problems, but it certainly gives an indication of what their customers are saying.
Yeah. So what other mistakes might people make regarding like measuring consumer sentiment or even acting on it, I suppose?
I think it's the latter that you said there is acting upon it. From when we've the sort of the various brands that we've worked with, lots of them have kind of take somewhere like a Trustpilot, for example. They're more than happy to promote how many stars they have on their website, like every e-commerce company does, and almost all brands do. But it's very rarely that they read below the lines. So it is not acting on the data that people give. And the brands that we've worked with are always so surprised with the answers that we can give them by reading below the lines, analyzing that data, and then showing it in sort of an impactful way that they can use. So yes, it is the latter. It is not sort of harnessing what's beneath the lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's something I see all the time. Brands just sticking 5 stars, 4.5, 5 stars on their website, 12,000 reviews, whatever. But we all know, obviously that's a good sign. It'll probably convince a lot of people just to go ahead with it. But there are people who are going to go to your reviews, filter for 2, 3, 4 star, and check what those people say. Because that's what I do. I don't care about. I don't really look at 1 and 5 star reviews because I tend to think that the quality of those reviews is lower, can be questionable. But it's maybe not even the 2 star, the 3, 4 star are the ones where people tend to be like at least okay with the product, but it's not quite met their expectations.
And a bit more honest.
Yeah, and they provide some actual qualitative feedback. One star, a lot of the time tends to be unrelated to the product, but more related to the business or the service. So it turned up a week late or something like that, which is it's fair feedback that you want to collect, but it's not a 1-star review for the product.
Yes. So it is just understanding that you're going to get the extremes, but knowing that if you're taking those core reviews out that are in the middle, it really does sort of aid in understanding your product better. So tools are able to do what you do, which is filter through those 4, 3, 2-star reviews and then understanding. But if we go back to your example earlier of having 12,000 reviews, you yourself aren't going to be able to sort of go through all those 2 to 4-star reviews yourself. Or if you do, it's clearly something that you're investing a lot of time in. So having a tool that uses NLP, like Talkative, really sort of speeds up that process. So for ourselves, we can analyze around 12, 13,000 data points in about 5 minutes and come back to you with sort of the full understanding of what your customers are saying about you, which is kind of a little bit quicker than the human eye can do.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to get those reviews in. I mean, I suppose you could almost like switch off your review function if you're seeing loads of negative sentiment out there.
Yes, you could, but those negative reviews help you build a stronger brand. And I was watching somebody. What I mean is turn off the sending of review requests. So if you suddenly become aware that loads of people are having delivery issues, you might want to just turn that off so that you're not sending review requests to people who are going to be unhappy. It's kind of gaming the system a little bit, but that's what marketers do. So absolutely, but it then helps you fix that issue, and then you can turn the back on once, and then understand that the issue's being fixed. Or if you have thought that you fixed the issue, let's say by deliveries, and you've contacted your courier and you've said that, and you've given the time period for them to fix it, and you're still getting those bad reviews through around deliveries, then maybe it's time to look at another service.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any examples of businesses that have managed to use this data really well? I suppose you've got any kind of like mini case studies in your mind?
Absolutely. So if we go back to the first example, when we first looked at moving into e-commerce, we looked at the larger brands that were out there, that were fast fashion brands, the likes of Boohoo, of Gymshark, those types of clients, of companies, and by analysing the reviews around Boohoo, that's where we were able to find out their problems with their courier service, the problems with their external communications when tracking a delivery, to make sure that your customer knows sort of that your order has been picked, has left the warehouse, is with the courier. By analyzing that kind of data, that allows clients to really understand that where their flaws are in their product and where they can fix them in order to ensure client retention.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Do you see are there any big trends coming up in the way businesses can measure or use this information, or maybe how sentiment might be impacted by new technology and stuff?
Yes, certainly. So the use of sort of NLP, natural language processing, is becoming a growing sector of AI that's being used more and more. And where we've spoken with a large hotel booking site, and in the process of talks with them, and not only will you have sort of the 4 or 5-star reviews alongside the hotel, you'll also get a emotional tracker, kind of like a speedometer, if you are, going from most negative all the way through to most positive. So it allows the potential user of hotels, the person who's going to book the hotels, the option to then understand the emotions that hotel gave them, the experience that hotel gave them. Was it positive? Was it neutral? Was it closer to negative? And obviously, the more positive feelings around sort of a service like that is sort of so important in terms of knowing that you're going to have a good holiday, know that you're going to have a good break away. So that's certainly something that I see developing, using the technology of NLP, and it's certainly with iOS 14 in the US, and taking away the ability for Facebook to track or take the data from Apple users, using something like NLP from someone like Talkative. It allows them then to, instead of using traditional demographic information like gender, age range, location, etc., it's now targeting them through the language that they use. So knowing that they say, or knowing that they emote positive feelings towards certain subjects, it then allows them to choose to push their ad spend in that way. So then using the keywords, using the subjects of the language that they're using, so that then they're still able to get their advertisements to the right people. Because now it doesn't matter where you live. You see the boom of e-commerce, and it's only going to keep on rising. And being able to target people by the language they use rather than the geographic location they're in is just another string to the bow of making sure that your ads are targeted in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing what language people are using on their phone or desktop is really important, because especially I don't want to say the last like 10 years or something, but over the years where people have moved about maybe a lot more. I know the first few companies I worked in, probably 80% of my colleagues weren't British.
Apologies. I meant the way that people write, the way that people talk. So being able to understand the way that they use language as opposed to which language they speak.
Oh, I see.
So
that could affect it as well, but all right.
Yes. So yeah, being able to understand the way that people write, so that you can then use the keywords when searching and creating campaigns, ensuring that you're using the same sort of language that your consumer does.
Got it. Yeah, makes more sense. So I've got one final question on this topic, which I think people might find really useful, actually. And that's basically kind of, do you provide like a managed service, or is it a SaaS tool, bit of both? Because I think, especially with a lot of the companies that I work with, they are a little bit stretched for resource. So while having access to all this data is really useful, like really good, really exciting, I think a lot of people might be concerned about whether they actually have even the time to look over it and work out what it's telling them, so that they can then work out what to go do with it.
Yes, so absolutely. For ourselves at Talkative, we supply each of our clients with their own unique dashboard with their own logins, so they can see the data in real time for themselves. We also provide them with an account manager who will talk them through all their data refreshes, which includes sort of a monthly presentation, which has sort of suggestions on what they can do with that data and our findings, and also a PDF report that marketers or product managers can then use to understand which direction they should take the business within, be that sort of their marketing strategy, their product launches, or their customer service. So for ourselves, we provide that dashboard that's easy to log in at any time, regular contact with an account manager to find out maybe a different avenue they want to use our tool in, and then also PDF reports which show them our suggestions from our findings.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, that would be that I know that would definitely be super useful. Just moving on then, because we're almost out of time. Do you have any pet peeves when it comes to marketing?
Yes, we spoke about it earlier. It is using buzzwords.
Okay.
And yes, and just not using language in the way that people use it when they're talking to their friends. That's kind of my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Especially if you're in the business of like natural language and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what I mentioned earlier with the influencers, when marketers hand them text which no one is ever going to post as a natural tweet or Instagram post.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it before when we spoke before about there was an influencer who copied and pasted the whole message, including "Can you please copy and paste this?" Yeah,
I think I've not seen it. I've not noticed it happen in a while, but there was a period where it seemed to be turning up in the news. I don't know, every couple of weeks, maybe once a month.
Yeah,
being a massive influencer who either them or their team, depending on who's really running the account, would just somehow copy paste that entire bit of text. And I don't know, maybe it's a bit easier to accidentally do that on the phone.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know, but still, you would have thought
it's in block capitals.
You check it. It's normally in block capitals. It's normally a separate sentence at the top. Like, they're not difficult to miss.
No.
So just finally then, do you feel there's a particular area of marketing which is underrated at the moment? I know you're not actually a marketer, but
I think going back to what I've said throughout, it's reading below the line and really sort of embracing what your customers have gone out of the way to express. It takes time to write a tweet, to write a comment, for people to think that it's their opinion matters. So read what they say and use it to form your next marketing strategy. Use it to form your next product launch or area to look at. So yeah, just read below the lines. Like, it's great to have 100,000 likes, but read the comments. That's got much more information in it than how many people have liked your photo.
Yeah, absolutely. It covers more areas as well, I suppose, not just marketing, but customer service, which I actually feel kind of should be part of marketing, but that's a different conversation. There's nothing more annoying than receiving even like a quick response from customer service, and they just haven't really, it feels like they haven't even read your email, really. They've missed your key point, especially if you're not even, if you've been pretty clear with your email, and someone asks for some details that you've already given them, or that sort of thing. I suppose that's not even reading between the lines, is it? That's just seeing what's there. But it's when people just haven't really understood your problem, and maybe try and offer a solution which, as far as you're concerned, you've explained your problem, but they've missed it. That really bothers me. Right, great stuff. This is really interesting. I'm definitely going to have to check the tool out myself a bit more. If people want to find out more, what's the best way? Can they connect with you?
So Tom Griffiths on LinkedIn. My Twitter handle, it's a new Twitter. I only got it this month, which is Tom Griff with one F, AI. That's my Twitter handle. And then Tom at talkaitiv.com or talkaitiv.com if you want to check the tool out.
Awesome. Yeah, I've just got back into Twitter myself this year.
Mm-hmm.
Finding it's pretty good, actually. It's one of those things I've found happen. I will check out a tool or something or a platform years ago, didn't like it, didn't get it, and I've come back to it a few years later and I'm just on it and I'm really enjoying it, and it just seems like the best thing ever. But awesome, really great stuff. Thank you so much, Tom.
Great, thanks for having me, Will.
Understanding customer sentiment is a great way to help develop your product or service offering. Frequently, you will find that customers aren't completely open with their feedback directly to a business, but on social media, they're more likely to explain what they really mean in the form of tweets or forum comments, both good and bad. But not only that, it's a great way to gather sentiment around your competitors as well, to find out where they might be struggling and where you can get a bit of an advantage. Are customers constantly complaining about shipping issues, or is their regular customer service like non-existent, and so people turn to social media to vent? While tools for this have been around for a while, the technology in the background has improved a huge amount and no longer really looks for a keyword or two. It can now assess the emotion related to that tweet or comment. Gone are the days of just knowing that thousands of customers are tweeting about the order they made from your business. Now you can actually understand whether they're happy or angry about those orders. If you'd like to learn more about customer sentiment, head over to talkative.com. That's talkaitive.com. Or reach out to Tom on Twitter at Tom Griff with the one F at the end. Any other podcast questions, feedback, guest requests, comments, anything, just please tweet me at Will Lawrenson. Next up, I've got my good friend Rishi Rawat joining me, and we're going to be talking about storytelling, why it's important to your business, and how you can implement it. But until then, keep those customers clicking.